Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am most definitely continuing on more predictions, more continuations, and more accelerated advancements with this type of protocol, with this type of advancement, with this type of play setting, with this type of accelerated foundational state of co-creative, multi-creationalistical plasma sort of field in the sort of one, the consciousness mind state of accelerated consciousness for 1 and 2, of course, the crystalline body matrix, which of course can be and also is one of the important sort of structures about creating life. So one of the key things is the fact of the matter that the major transitions that we're also going through, of course, some of the thought forms that exist are great. Of course, it's important to know those foundations are not only the basis of the sorts of life forms that exist, but of course the basis for the continuance of a type of co-creative life force. The other thing is that some, of course, once again, there's a lot more co-creative aspectual parts of what it means to be involved in, not only involved in consciousness, but raising consciousness, which is, of course, a constant, beautiful process. One of the key thing is how to sort of, one of the major things is how to sort of do what's, I guess, a sort of, which is a very true thing, I guess, is hiding in plain sight. What does that mean? It means to be in the cover of the quadrant, or for example, the hemisphere of the Earth that you're in, or that we're on. So, for example, when we are wearing, for example, what we're wearing is not only, which is one of the basic things to know, is we're not only wearing, for example, the immediate environment, but that entire, like, for example, sky eyes, ocean fire attire, meaning everything in the vicinity can be the camouflage at the same time. That is a part of the existence of, for example, which can be called a type of, cloaking, a type of clothing, a type of armor, even, and a type of, dress, and a type of thought form that can be put on. And so that is one form, one thing that I also want to not only show, which I've done before, but also reiterate and also mention. One of the amazing things about these aspecticular natures is one of the effects, which is a boomerang effect. Of course, to continue to jump to the next level, important things are needed to know, which is also the incredible amounts of course, effort, fruitions, dedications, and, for example, motivations, and the type of essences that have been in these fluid creational forms, and how important it is to, of course, always realize, higher consciousness. I mean, as already reiterated, once you get beyond a certain veil point, of course, there's no duality. That's the key thing. One major thing is that we actually, which is true, we graduated from duality, which is a very, very huge accomplishment, and that's something that's, very, very productive, very grand, and huge and elevating. So what's very key is that, of course, that's a sort of consciousness awareness, and then that can be, for example, added to the library of the DNA structure that's within all human beings, and that you can build that, and then of course tap into, for example, Mother Nature and the trees, and then get more downloads that way. So, also another very important creationalistical transition, is kind of similar to the boomerang effect, but an echo effect, which is also very exactly what it sounds like, echolocation, to, once again, some of Mother Nature's teachings of us to ourselves, because we created ultimately. We created seeds, we created plants, we created trees, and we created these rocks, we created this, and so we can still use these types of, for example, hidden in plain sight views that are all over us, all around us, too. So one of the key things is, just being absolutely, for example, simplicity is, for example, yellow. In dandelions, incredibly simple, but you got green and yellow. Blue is yellow and blue. Green is yellow and blue. So obviously that is the color that's not seen, but it is absolutely hidden in plain sight. Because the interesting and very obvious thing is that we see green and we see yellow. Of course, the product of what equals green, and then the product of what is a part of that equation, which is yellow. Interesting how that equation is very key and very basic and part of the imagination equations, as well as the magic in the making equations, and as well as the magic and momentum and movement equations, as well as the additional. So, because these are incredibly powerful forces. So what this means is a sort of reiteration of the type of gaining of the magical powers that, of course, is not only within the, for example, what can be called the palm or the elbow or shoulder or neck, even the spine, of course, has many names, Kundalini, whatever you want to call it. Of course, has many names in other languages as well. Of course, and toes, fingers, tips of the head, eyebrows, to the contours and the shapes of the very type of formational aspects of what is, for example, limitless spiritual nature. Now, the teachings, for example, are not only necessarily teachings, but they're spiritual wisdom, and it is even advanced form of thought form. So what is happening, for example, in a certain, which is a very accelerated, incredible time span condensation, is that understanding of that type of thought form. So what happens is the process is the making of the thought form, and then also is the understanding of those magical components in those aspects. So those key factors, not only of those, for example, wisdom forms, are also types of creational aspect of forms. So what that means is subtle. Of course, it's incredibly subtle, very, very, very subtle. The subtle movements, motions is, of course, the essence of one of the very fantastical evanescence. And that just means just ways to, and this is really used so we can absolutely have a very complex understanding of consciousness, or understanding in our state of consciousness the type of the healings, for example, that are done, or the type of rejuvenations, for example, that are done, or the type of magical fruitions that are done. Of course, one of the, I guess we'll call it magical tools. It's a type of tool. But of course, Ravencaullism has many, many different types of intelligence, wisdom, aspects in the forms of magic. And of course that's a very beautiful learning process that we're also all developing and have developed and understand and are understanding, and it's really important that we, the key things is that it's seeking for the change in our accelerated advancement in consciousness and in overall in culture and in life. Because we got, of course, which is becoming common knowledge, which is very important. We have a huge plethora of, which is just, there's a huge plethora of all these, for example, and then just a whole lot of unity sessions going on, meaning there's a whole lot of consciousness shifts for how to bring those things that are already in fruition into fruition. Meaning, so there's advanced technologies, which I've mentioned so many times. Advanced transportation, advanced communication, advanced accessible, transistable, creationalistical technologies, and even technologies, of course, which are beyond the imagination, which actually requires some of the equations to help bring those technologies into fruition, also from the very creationalistical aspect of what already is, because that helps us, or not only helps us, but it actually creates those things that already exist. And then you, for example, of course, OF is just that absorption of that, just like roots absorb water from rain, so can those nutrients of what we desire be absorbed by the amino acids of that which is, for example, the consciousness, or the human consciousness, or just consciousness in general. And what's key about this is that I guess we'll call it XP, the experience of that type of memory is, it ultimately is immortal. So one of the key things is just to, of course, remember, just the brilliance of what it means, not only what it means, but the brilliance of the radiance of resiliency in terms of those very, very important aspects of what type of grander living conditions can be sustained for all of creation with those advanced technologies, and of course how this communication and connection means for the rest of. So this is your host, or for the rest of creation and continuous creation. So this is your host, Christopher Mark Curtis Bond, this evening edition of Fire of Liberty, transcending, unifying this golden age, in this epic golden age, and this age of enlightenment, accelerating this renaissance for all forms of peace, unity, and consciousness acceleration throughout the universe. Love you all.